In today's video, I'm going to share with you all my full custom brand design process. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan. If you have not been here before, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of Wine and Design. I do have my glass of wine poured right here. So every single Wednesday, I hang out with you guys, sip on a glass of wine, and talk about or do graphic design work. So I'm super excited for today's video because I'm going to break it down all the way to sort of the basics of my full process when it comes to branding. If you're new, this is Leo. He is the cutest little cat. He's been sleeping all day on his hammock, so he's ready for the night. So I want to break it down all the way to what branding even means, because I feel like as designers we throw this word around and it can seem kind of obvious to us what it means, but a lot of times I feel like every single branding package is very unique to the designer. So I wanted to share with you guys what exactly I include in my branding packages and what I feel is the most necessary for my clients and what they're actually going to find useful, because we don't want to just waste our time creating things because we see another designer doing it, when in reality it might not even be necessary for you in your process. But for me, these steps really help. So the things I like to include are the initial questionnaire and the discovery call. This might feel like something that you don't need to actually include, but it takes a lot of time to kind of nail down your questionnaire, to nail down that deep discovery with your clients. And I feel that this is a step that we can kind of skip over, but it is important to let your clients know that this is a really thought out step and it's very important to your process. So I like to include the discovery call, the branding mood board, which helps with my imagery, the visuals, and I also like to include that kind of involves the design direction in terms of finding and curating that inspiration for the logos. And then I also like to include a branding strategy. I like to include logo designs and including all the variations, which I will get into, the fonts and any of the logo elements. Like if I had hand drawn something, I like to pull that off the logo and include that as well, so they can use it in a pattern, or if they want to just print that element and have it maybe as a sign or something in their storefront. I also like to include the font palette and a guideline on when to use the fonts, a color palette. And the color palette can seem very simple, but it is really important in terms of getting all the color codes, because I have had clients in the past actually use those colors to paint the walls of their storefront. So it's definitely important to make sure that they know that the color palette is also important. And then I also like to include some brand assets, whether that is some social media templates, or maybe the brand pattern, or maybe it is, I kind of leave this up to the client in terms of what they need most. Some clients need sticker designs, so I'll replace the social media with that. So things like that, I kind of adjust the assets, or I guess that collateral for my clients based on their specific needs. So those are a lot of the things I include, and at the very end, I deliver a branding package, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. But this guideline basically just goes over everything they need to know: when to use the fonts, when to use the colors, how to use the logo, how not to use the logo. So everything that they need to know about their branding is in this guideline, and it can be used for years and years and years. So that is the ultimate goal. I want it to be timeless and memorable and something that they want to use and show off. So that is the branding package. I wanted to kind of explain the details of what's included. I do have a course. I'm a shameless plug right here. I do have a custom branding course if you want to see a more deeper dive into the full client process, but I will go over in this video step by step what each part of this package, the importance of it, and what I do to create that final branding guideline. So first things first, the brand discovery call. I do have a freebie down below if you want to get some really great questions listed out. I think it's 30 or 50 questions on that package I made a really long time ago for free. You guys can go get that down below. But these questions are really great to ask in that initial call. But my very first part of the process, before I even nail them down as a client or before we commit to working together, I do like to get on a connection call. And this call just like it like allows us to connect, exactly what it sounds like. It allows me to see if we're going to be a good fit and if I feel like this is something that we both want to move forward with. And I also like to learn about their vision, their goals, everything like that. So that is the initial step, is the connection call. The second step would be to send over the proposal. So I am launching a Dubsado course very soon, but I do like to send my proposals through Dubsado. It makes it really easy for me to automate this, and I did just actually make a video on this last week if you want to see a little insight into that. But my proposal is what I send after that initial connection call. Once they sign their proposal, we nail down the date and I have them on my calendar. Then when it goes into the start date, this is when everything kicks off of what's included. Step number 1 is the branding questionnaire. So this is it seems like a repetitive part of the process, but it's really not, because these questions are way more deeper into what it is exactly that they want to achieve through their branding. I ask them questions like, what kind of colors do they really like or they don't really like? I want to know if they want a monogram, if they want it really typography based. And I kind of walk them through this so they know how to answer them to the best of their ability. But I also want to know if there's a tagline, if there's an established by date, if there's anything I really need to know to make this logo exactly what they're envisioning. So this questionnaire is way more of a deep dive into actually what it is they want for their logo. Once I get the branding questionnaire back, I do like to jump into the mood board design. So usually, when I first get the client and they are a client of mine, I start to kind of curate a Pinterest board based on our initial conversation and my initial visions. I like to kind of get all my ideas out there before I actually read what the client wants exactly. Because there's going to be clients that know exactly what they want, and there's going to be some clients that are like, I trust you to do what you want. So usually I like to just put all my ideas out there before I even read anything from the client. So I already have a Pinterest board going, but then I'll look at the questionnaire and kind of reference that when I go and pin more images to that board. I don't actually send the Pinterest board link to my clients, although I have had that in the past and it is a really nice way to do it. But I do like to pull the images that I feel represent the brand vision the best, and I put it into a mood board. So the mood board then is basically a little peek into how I'm envisioning it, and some of the images in there will represent the textures, the fonts. I go over all of this in my course, but a lot of the things I include in the mood board are what the client will be seeing in the actual branding. So mood board is so important. I definitely recommend having this step because it's something that I reference throughout the entire branding process. So along with this initial phase of the mood board and the overall design direction, I also like to do the brand strategy. So before I even send the mood board, this is all included in this phase 1. So we have the mood board, then I have the brand strategy, which is when I like to come up with a mission statement. I think having a simple 1-sentence statement of what it is they're providing and their overall goal as a business is so powerful. It helps me kind of brainstorm the design, and it also helps them kind of have that vision just even that much clearer. So I do like to have a mission statement, and then I also like to get the target audience. So in this part of the process, it's really just me exploring the competitors, looking online, looking on Instagram, TikTok, all those things, and kind of seeing what's out there and how they can show up a little bit differently, and also how their personality can be really represented through the brand. So I come up with those 1-sentence things. They don't have to be long. For me, my strategy portion is not crazy long. I just want to get the mission out there, the audience out there, and that's about it. So I like to include those. And then if the client doesn't have a tagline yet, I will also brainstorm some taglines for them, and this is included in my overall package price. Those are all the things I include in phase 1, and then I send this over to my client, and I actually include a type form link in the email for them to provide their feedback on what it is that they like about the direction, if they want to see any revisions, or if they are happy with my overall direction. So most of the time I will say that there's usually just very, very minimal edits to this part of the process. I want to make sure I have all those questions answered in the beginning so that I don't have to go back and forth on the direction. So I feel like this part is pretty seamless and I don't really have too many back and forth revisions. Okay, phase 2 of my branding process is the logo design and exploration. So this phase is so fun. It's my favorite phase. And I will say, if you are in my branding course, some of my systems have kind of evolved and changed. Most of them are very similar, and I still use a lot of those practices, but I like to have them in these phases just mentally for me and the client so we know which part of the process we're in. But the logo design and exploration phase is so fun. This is when I dive into sketching out the logo, creating the logo, and this is like one of those services that I could not do in a short amount of time because it low-key takes me like 4 days usually to nail down the logo that I want to send them and the logo that I want to present and put in the mock-ups and really make a statement with it. So it does take me some time. I feel like 4 days doesn't sound that long, but I'm talking about like almost the whole day I'm spending designing the logo. So it's a pretty tedious process, and it does take a lot of patience as a designer because it's a lot of like taking your sketches, making them vectorized or drawing them on your iPad or going back and adjusting like one little thing. So it's a very tedious process. I like to always include some sort of like hand-drawn element or illustration or something that just sets them apart, and that's just like my signature thing that I like to do, and I do feel that takes some time. So I like to make sure my clients know that this part of the process is a little bit longer, but I have those dates that I'm delivering these in the beginning before we even start. They know exactly when everything will be in their hands. So yeah, the branding logo design direction phase is pretty tedious. In this phase, it's very important. One of my biggest tips for this is to make sure that you're presenting it really well, because I think that a lot of times you won't sell the logo that you're presenting if it's not presented well. So what I mean by this is making sure that it's really clear to the client what a primary logo is, what a secondary logo is, what a submark is, and why you created these ones for them. If you don't explain it to your clients, they're not going to know what it is they're looking at. Like, it's basically just putting something on a piece of paper and asking them if they like it, but it really helps to see it in real life forms. So in mock-ups, or maybe you can somehow Photoshop it into their social media. Showing them exactly how you're envisioning this looking is really, really going to help you. And it might seem like that takes a lot more time, but I'm telling you, it'll save you time because they're probably going to like the concept if you show them exactly how it'll look versus you just continuously sending them concept after concept because they can't envision what you're envisioning. So definitely make sure to mock them up, explain it to them by doing like a screen recording or maybe presenting it through a phone call if you want. I always do screen recordings, and I make sure on the email that I say, please watch this first before you scroll through the document, just to make sure I get my points across on why I think this is going to work for them. So definitely make sure that the presentation part of the logo's really good, because that's going to help save you so much time, and it's also going to help the client understand your direction. Well, let's talk about revisions really quickly, because I feel like there's some designers that offer revisions, some designers don't. I think either way is totally fine and great, but for me, I have noticed that when I have revision limits, it not only encourages the client to kind of nail down their direction to me. So if they do have feedback, it kind of helps them like nail that down and explain it a little bit better and clearer instead of just back and forth constantly sending them new things and not really understanding what it is they're trying to explain. So when I have that limit to the amount of revisions, it just helps me and them understand that this is when you have to share everything on your mind about it. So I do like to have a limit on my revisions. My limit is 4. So after 4 rounds of redesigning, that is when they will have to pay additional. So usually I just charge hourly for the initial or additional fees, but that really does help me. Forgot to mention really quickly that during the mood board process is when I also am creating the color palette. So I do go into how I create color palettes in my courses, but I do create the color palette in that initial direction phase. And after the initial logo concepts, once they decide which one they want to go with or which one they want to see revisions on, that is when I will plug the colors into the logo. So my initial delivery of the concepts are all in black and white because I want them to not get distracted by the colors and I want them to really focus on like the elements. So the second round of sending them the logos and the revisions is when I include those color options for the logo. So this is when I show them what it can look like when it's reverse colors and vice versa. So after we nail down the logo and they've decided on the one they want, that is when I jump into putting together the branding package. So this is a little bit of a longer process because I do like to include those brand assets like the social media posts or like I'm thinking of a client example right now. I'm doing a sticker for them. So I do let them know that this is going to just be me packaging it all up. And this phase is, putting it all together. So it's the fun part of kind of seeing it all come together. And it's really rewarding when you see it all in the branding guideline package. So that is pretty much all the steps I take to create it. But I do have one last step. So now that we have the branding guideline done and it's ready to send it off to the client, I really want to make sure that you guys do not forget to do an offboarding email because I feel like you send it off to them and they don't really know where to go next. Maybe they're about to launch their brand. Maybe they have plans to slowly start using their logo. But usually when I send this branding guideline over, in the email, I like to include some celebration launch graphics, complimentary, because I want them to feel excited about it. And I want them to go share what I created online and, have something right away to kind of show it off. So I do like to include those launch graphics. And it's just kind of a fun way to show your appreciation for them working with you. But also in that offboarding email, I like to include a form to provide me feedback. So I'm using Typeform now these days because it just is so easy for me to collect everything. It's really user friendly and it's just been working really well. So I do like to include a Typeform and I like to get their feedback pretty much right away because it's fresh in their mind. They're super excited about their branding. And it's just nice so you don't forget to do it because if I don't do it right away, I jump into my next project and I completely forget. So that offboarding email is really important. And I do have a workflow set up in Dubsado that kind of reminds them to leave the feedback, check in with them, see how they're doing, and see if they need anything else from you. So yeah, that's honestly everything I do. I would say my branding packages take around 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the amount of revisions we have. So it definitely is a longer service than my website in a week, but it's a really, really fun service. It's one of my favorite and it's awesome. I love it. So I really hope it was helpful to hear my full process, everything that goes into it, everything I include. Every single client is very unique, so I feel like I adjust some things here and there when it comes to specific people, but this is really standard and pretty much every client gets exactly what I just listed out. So anyway, I hope that was interesting to you. I want to just let you guys know again, if you want to learn more about like the full process and see exactly how I create the color palette, exactly how I create my logos, I do have a couple courses on this. So I have a custom branding course, which is best for those who want to know the client process, the client experience. And then I also have a logo design course that goes more into the art and how I create them. So definitely go check those out. I will leave them all linked down below. And you know what? I might throw in a little coupon code down there too. So definitely go check that out. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and that it was helpful to you. Hope you guys are having a great summer, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks, guys.